Okay, why you should switch to a Chromebook, or what a Chromebook is. In other words, all about Chromebooks for those who don't know why they're so good, and maybe a few tips for those who are using them. I'm Hewie Poplock. I'm in Bradenton, Florida. Uh, I have, about 2 years ago, I'm in a retired community. About 2 years ago, I was helping some of my neighbors with their windows and updates, and things were changing on them, and they weren't sure what was going on. And I said, well, there's got to be a better way for them. And so I started coming across articles, and I started investigating. Let's see here. Why isn't that moving? There we go. I started investigating Chromebooks, and I'll explain why in just a couple of minutes. But I got so enamored with them. I first went out to my local Best Buy and bought one. I said, if I'm going to talk about them, the least I can do is learn how to use one. And I spent about $250, and I got one, and I'm still using it. I love it. And I ended up starting a website called Chromebooks for Seniors, and it's cb4s.net. I invite you to take a look at the website, and I'll talk about it a little bit later. But what I said is, my neighbors are all in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and several in the 90s. It's an independent living community. We all have our own homes. So I go and I visit when they ask if they have some help or they need some help with their computers. And I said, well, if there are Chromebooks in kindergarten through third grade, and here's some pictures of first, second, third grade, even kindergartners in classrooms. Here's kindergarten through high school, some various pictures. Excuse me, in kindergarten, sixth graders in high school. So what we really need to do is think about, what do you do on your computer? Well, you probably do some email. You may do Facebook. You probably play some games, but usually the games like card games, solitaire, poker, that sort of thing, not the heavy graphics intensive games that you would have a game box, for instance, to play with. You might look up some information or Google it. You might do some banking and pay your bills. You may make some purchases like on Amazon or any other place. Some of you may even Skype some of your relatives. You may watch some YouTubes. There are YouTubes that'll teach you and help you with almost anything. And plus, there are some that are just plain funny and fun to watch. You might use Word, Excel, PowerPoint, in other words, the Microsoft Office. And you may have some other things that you do on the computer. But for the most part, probably what's on the screen is pretty much all you do. Now, what about Chromebooks? Well, they were launched in 2012. They've only been around about 7 years. In 2015, the category overtook MacBooks in the US. And this was the latest figure I could get, that how many Chromebooks were sold. But in Q1 2015, 2 million units were sold. In each quarter since then, the number has increased, and that's how many units were sold, not how many units are out there. And this is pretty much fueled by the K through 12 education market. Okay, it's widely used in education. 58%, in fact, now it's over 60% of the US K through 12 schools are using Chromebooks. Windows is in second with around 22%, and the combined impact of Mac OS and iOS, in other words, the Macs and the iPads, are close at 19%. And it's a rapidly shifting landscape. 3 years earlier, Apple's products represented nearly half of the devices being shipped to US classrooms. Pretty much now, it's Chromebooks. Although there are a lot of schools that do buy iPads for their schools, but they'll have so many per classroom where when they buy Chromebooks, they're buying one-to-one. In other words, almost every student will have their own Chromebook. Now, here are some of the pros of owning and having a Chromebook. First of all, they boot quickly. They should boot in about 8 seconds. Think of how long it takes your Windows computer to boot up and be ready for you to use. You usually go get a cup of coffee, go to the bathroom, you do something, and then come back and hope it's ready for you. And a lot of times you leave it on because it takes so long for it to get ready. They're effectively impervious to viruses. But remember that phishing isn't a virus. It's caused by the person behind the computer keyboard. So make sure that mom and dad know how to what to watch for, or yourself, what to watch for as far as being careful with phishing emails and so on, so you don't click on the wrong thing. Generally speaking, they're inexpensive, usually anywhere from about $200 to $500, depending upon the size and the features. However, if you want one of the Google Pixels, they start at about $16.99 with a bunch of add-ons. You can get up to around $2,000. But as I mentioned, the one I bought was about $250, and it's got almost everything I want on a Chromebook, and more than what you really require or need, but were things that I want, and I'll talk to you about what you should look for as far as when you're looking for a Chromebook, the things to look for and what your needs should be. You can also have voice commands. You can say, "Okay, Google," from the launcher to invoke Google's voice-powered assistant on a Chromebook. There's a tight integration with everything Google, Gmail, Google Drive, Google Calendar, and so on. So that means any document created in, say, Google Docs is automatically archived to Google Drive. And it's like a full-time automatic backup for nearly everything that the user does. So you don't have to worry about, oh, did I back up? Have I backed up recently? Do I need to back up? Hang on, I got to clear my throat. I'm sorry, I coughed right into the phone and I didn't shut it off quickly enough. Anyway, so it's all kind of intertwined, and it backs up automatically to your Google Drive out in the cloud, so you don't have to worry about it. When you shut your computer down, you're backed up out in the cloud. So if something happens to your computer and you have to even buy a new one, you log into your account, everything is there, including the programs and your settings. It's wonderful. It's also a good battery life. This is another reason the schools like it, because in most cases, the Chromebooks have about a 10-hour battery in them. 10 hours. That means when a student comes into school in the morning and they turn on their newly charged Chromebook, they don't have to worry about charging it until the end of the day, and they put it in the charger when they go home. And if they take it home, they plug it in at home and then charge it using the power at home. So they can go all day long, 10 hours. I use mine all day, traveling around, doing things that I want to do and so on. And when I get home at night, then I can plug it in and charge it back up. And it doesn't take long to charge either. The keyboards are simple. And the Chromebooks come with all the essential software. You get all of the Office products, which is the Google Calendar, the Gmail, and then the Google Docs, Google Sheets, and their presenter program, their spreadsheet program, and their word processing program. All are part of the Google group, so you get it automatically on your computer. And if you get one of the portable ones, it's easy to carry around. If it's a Google Chromebox, it's more like a home computer, but again, it's still not a big unit. Okay, what about the cons? You know, there are some things that aren't perfect about Chromebooks. They aren't perfect, and they don't fit everybody. There's a bit of a learning curve, like any computer would be, even the phones. But if you're using an Android phone, for the most part, you know how to use a Chromebook. They operate almost the same, except you don't have a phone. Printing can be a challenge. The Chrome operating system doesn't always allow for a USB connection. However, I've noticed lately it is possible to connect some Chromebooks to your printer directly with a wire, and it will print. It depends upon the printer. It depends upon the Chromebook that you're using, but it does support wireless printing, provided your printer supports Google Cloud Print. You can check that with your printer. If you're going to buy a Chromebook, you'll want to check and see with the printer you have whether it supports Google Cloud Print. Almost every printer that's been out for the last several years does have that ability. Sometimes you have to turn it on. And so even if it does, setup isn't always easy, but there's lots of documents, especially on the cb4s.net site. I've got several documents there, excuse me, that will help you setting up your Google Cloud Print. Once it's set up, then it's fine. You've probably, if you have an Android phone, you've probably done that anyway to be able to print to your from your phone. And if you can't print from your phone, that's the reason why. And if you learn how to do it with your Chromebook, your Android phone will work as well. And Gmail is not everyone's favorite email client. However, I think most of us now use Gmail at one time or another. And because you do, it's built into the operating system. It's part of the Chromebook, and it's if you know how to use Gmail, and Chrome, the browser, you pretty much know how to use your computer. And of course, you need the other thing with a Chromebook is you need to have the internet. It relies on the internet, so you need to have Wi-Fi available to you in order to do most of the things that you're going to do. There are some things that you can do offline, and then when you connect, it will then complete the chore. In other words, you might be able to, you can work on a Google Doc locally, and then when you connect, it will then upload that to the Google Drive. You can sometimes compose some emails, and then when you connect, they'll automatically be sent. So, but you really need the internet in order to use it. Okay, here's some facts about Chromebooks. There's 30 million Chromebooks are now used in education as of January 2019. There are 30 million Chromebooks in schools. In Q4 of 2018, that would be the end of the year, 2018, about 6 months ago, Chromebooks made up 21% of all notebooks sold in the US. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but you have to remember that the sales for laptops and notebooks have been decreasing, yet Chromebooks are increasing. And they're included in the mix. So while the Windows and Mac notebooks are selling fewer models during the course of the year, Chromebooks are growing. There's been a 23% growth year over year from 2017 to 2018, and 2019 is also expected to grow. It was estimated at 8.9 million Chromebooks. New Chromebooks will be shipped worldwide in 2018. And there's also a growing interest in Chromebooks from businesses in finance and retail sectors. And companies are using Chromebooks as no-frills, mobile thin clients, considering they're so cheap to deploy and easy to manage. So they're buying a bunch of Chromebooks and handing them out to their employees to use from home and connect to the office computer and do their work, and then use them for other things locally as well as they're traveling. And they don't have to have such a large investment. Otherwise, they're spending about $1,500 for a laptop for employees, where they can get away with a $300 or $400 laptop if it's a Chromebook. Now, in order to get programs other than what it comes with, there are two ways in which you can get programs on a Chromebook. The original way was using the Chrome Web Store, which gave you several hundred different programs you could use. In the last 2 years, updates in the Chrome operating system now allow Android programs, the same programs that you can install on your apps. When I say programs, I mean apps that you can install on your Android phones, you now can install on Chromebooks. And you use Google Play Store for that. So the Chrome Web Store is where you can find thousands of apps, extensions, and themes designed for your Google Chrome browser. But the Google Play Store lets you browse and shop for your favorite music, movies, and books. You can also download apps and games for your Android phone or tablet, and as well as your Chromebook. And I'm going to show you a lot of those that I use, that I've downloaded, that I have both on my phone and on my Chromebook. Some I only have on my Chromebook. The number of available apps in the Google Play Store was most recently placed at 2.6 million apps. You should be able to find a few that'll work for you. So that was in March, just a couple of months ago, after surpassing 1 million apps in July of 2013. Google Play was originally launched in October of 2008, so it's only been around 11 years, Google Play, but the Google Play Store. But it's now where you get all of your apps for your Android phones or for Google Chromebooks. You'll notice in this chart, it's showing the difference in 2018 and the previous months. It's actually declined the number of applications. That's because Google went in and got rid of a bunch of junk. I was going to say crap, but I'll just say junk apps that were out there, some that contained malware and some that were just lousy or had been outdated and not updated. And they pretty much cleaned out the store. So now they only have 2.6 million to choose from. Chrome systems that support the Android apps. When I first started doing this presentation just about a year ago, I would say, well, there's only a few models that you can run the Google Play Store and use the Android apps. Now, almost all of the 2017 and later models, you can install Android apps on them. And some of the earlier ones, you can. As I said, I've had mine now for over 2 years. Mine was one of the models. Mine was the Acer Chromebook R11, and I'm able to install the Android apps on it without any problem. The problem I run into is if I install too many of them, I start running out of space on the in storage, and I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. So the Chromebook shipments, if you look at 2018, as I said, we're estimated at 8.9. This year should be up to about 10.1 million, and 2020 they should be up to around 11.5, and they increase each year. Now this is not the total of number of Chromebooks out there. This is a shipment of new Chromebooks. So this is in addition to the ones that are out there. 2012, 2013, these are countries that are able to use Chromebooks or are using them in schools and so on. 2018, and now and it starts over again. 2018 is the last year. Obviously, they have a full year of information. So to sum it up, Chromebooks should be your next computer for portability. Most of them weigh less than 3 pounds. You can take them anywhere. The battery lasts for 10 hours. Some of them are up to 10, 12, even more hours. Some are only about 8 hours. But there's no need to carry a charger everywhere as you go. The Google apps, all your documents are in the cloud. They save automatically, so you can access them anywhere. Your performance, it boots up in 5 to 7 or 8 seconds. no slowdown no matter how much you do. As far as security goes, no viruses. The Chromebook is always up to date and always safe. And it says price, it only costs about $300. You can buy a pretty good one in the $300 range, better ones in the $500 range. There's no add-ons to worry about. There's no extra fees. If you want some more storage, cloud storage, most of the models you'll get 2 years of 100 gigabytes of storage. Then it's about 20 some odd dollars a year for I think it's 100 gigabytes of storage, and you can get more if you need it. This is a website called zipso.net, and they show you all of the models of Chromebooks that are out there by year that they were released. This is just a list of the 2019 Chromebooks. You'll notice the little green Android. That means they support the Android apps. Now, this page, this website, if you scroll down the page, you'll see the 2019 Chromebooks, the 2018, the 2017, the 2016. When it gets before 2017, not all of them have the little Android, the little green Android logo, because they don't support the Android apps. And why is this important if you go out to buy a Chromebook? Well, you'll see a lot of Chromebooks advertised on Facebook, on Amazon, and pop-ups and websites that you go to and so on for $100. Sometimes I saw one this week for like $59. But it's really an older model. It was a 2012 model, a 2013 model, and it would not support Android apps. It doesn't have a touch screen. It doesn't have this. It doesn't have that. So it's, if you're only doing some bare minimum stuff, it's probably a good computer for you. But if you want to do some things that most of us do, probably is not the right Chromebook to buy. You might want to buy one of the newer ones where you can add the Android apps to it. And I'm going to go through what you need to look for when you buy a Chromebook. I've got a slide with several things that I recommend and what they mean. Here's a close-up of the information. It does have the Android logo, so you can tell that it does handle the Android. The other thing is the resolution. Notice the resolution. Some of them are 1366 by 768, which is what mine is. But some of the larger screened ones have a resolution of 1920 by 1080. You can get more information on the screen, but it's going to be small, especially if it's the same size screen. But an 11-inch screen versus a 14-inch screen. So you'll notice that some are 11, some are 14, some are in between that. In other words, when you go out to buy a Chromebook, you're going to have to consider screen size as well and how big that computer is going to be for you to use. How big a one do you want to carry? How heavy do you want it to be? Okay, so here's what to look for when you go out to buy a Chromebook, or if you're going to help somebody buy one. Number one is the brand. Do you have a brand that you like? Lenovo, HP, Asus, Acer, and Dell are probably the biggest, most used ones out there, and not including the Google Pixel, which are much more expensive. But if there's a brand that you prefer, then you want to look at some of the brands. If you don't care, then you want to at least know what it's about, and you might want to check the brand and see what kind of reviews they're getting. The screen size, remember I said you can get 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15-inch screens. Again, how big do you want it to be on your desk? How big do you want to carry? If you're going to carry it around and use it, maybe you might not want a 15-inch. That gets kind of bulky. The one I have is 11 inches, and I love that size. It's about the size of an iPad, and that's what I wanted to replace, was my iPad using it. The resolution, remember I mentioned that, 1300 by 800, rounding out about 13 by 800 versus 1900 by 1,000. The CPU model, probably not important, but you might prefer Intel, you might prefer one of the others. So you might want to look to see what kind of a CPU it has, and then how fast that CPU is. So if you're looking at an older model, obviously the CPU speed will be probably slower than the newer ones. And then how many cores are in it as well. To me, that's not important unless you're doing it probably doesn't matter. It probably doesn't matter. But what about memory? The early ones came with 2 gigabytes of RAM. Now we're talking about memory. Now we're talking about brains, not storage. I'm going to talk about storage in just a second. But memory, 2 gigabytes, 4 gigabytes are what you normally will find. It'll either be a 2 or a 4. Trust me, you want to get at least the 4. Some of the newer models, and they are more expensive than the 4 gigabyte ones, but you can get 8. You can, I think there's a model of the Google Pixel, the one around 1600. I think it's got 64 gigabytes of RAM, or at least it's considerably more than 8, at least 16 or 32. Now, storage is how much storage you have on the computer. Most of the and the memory that or the storage memory, it's actually memory on the Chromebooks. Most of the ones, the early ones, had about 8 gigabytes of storage, but that included not only the files that you save, but also the apps that you run, and the operating system has to run in that storage. So the one I have, I think, has got 16, and I'm running out all. I have to delete apps to make sure that I've got enough room to store anything. So some of the newer ones now are coming with 32 and 64 and 128 of memory. Again, each time you increase the amount of storage, it's going to cost you more. Now, something else that you want to look at, let's see, and it's after battery. I'm going to wait a second, but I'll talk about it now, is more storage. You want to look to see, does the model that you're looking at have the ability to have an SD card put in it? Either the small SDs or a full SD card, and those you can run up to 128 external, so you have a D drive as well as your C drive. Mine has I've got 128 gigabyte, a little mini SD card in it, and I use that for storage. And if I get a chance at the end, I will show you how you access it. But I'm going to show you some of the file management tool that's built in as well. Also, think of your battery. You might want to look, is it 8, 10, or 12 hours? If it's an older one, it's liable to be less. And if it's a refurbished one, batteries do, as they get older and are used more and recharged more, they do lose some of the initial storage that they had. So if you got a 10-hour battery, after a couple of years, it might be 8 hours or 9 hours. So you don't want to get one too small, because then as it gets smaller, it may not be enough for you. But some of them now are 12 hours, and some are even longer. The weight, again, depending upon the size of the screen, how thick it is, and so on, you want to look at the weight. They're not really heavy no matter which one you get. But still, if you're going to lug it around with you all day long, and you're going to want to open it and use it, you may not. That's something to consider. Something that I find very, very important is an HDMI port. It's HDMI out, not in. And not all of the units have the HDMI port out. None of them have them in. But they all have, but some of them have it out. So if you're going to present, say, at a user group meeting, and you want to plug it into your projector, if you've got an HDMI port, all you have to do is plug the HDMI cable into it, and you're connected to your projector. or to your TV. You can take, if you've got an extra HDMI port in your TV, you run a cable from it, put it in the back of the TV, and then run it to your Chromebook, plug it in, and then tell it to project. It will, you can then have your slideshow or what you're doing on your Chromebook on your TV. So if you got a large 65-inch screen TV and you want to show your slides, they don't have to crowd around your 11-inch Chromebook. You can be showing them on your TV simply by plugging in an HDMI cable. Price, again, I said $200 to $500, $400 is an average. $500, you can get a pretty good. Samsung's got some models. They list at about $599. Usually have them on sale around $500, and they have some more add-ons than some. They have some more things or bigger storage, more memory, and so on, right from the get-go. So you might want to spend $500 as opposed to $300. Depends on what your budget is. Now, these are some things that I require that you may not. One is I want it to support Android apps. So in order, if I'm going to have a Android apps, I'm going to want a touch screen as well. And I think that's important. The touch screens, like I say, the R11, the Acer R11 that I have has a touch screen, supports the Android. And as I said, I bought it for $250. It was on sale. It normally is about $289 or $299. But still, I paid $250. It's a touch screen. It has the Android. It has a built-in camera, a microphone, and it has the HDMI port, and it has an SD card slot. That, as I mentioned, I put an SD card in it. Something else, of course, is the camera and mic. You can always plug in a camera or mic if you don't have that built in. Most of them have them built in these days. And something I really want to have in mind, I don't have it in the R11. I did see that one of the other criteria that I'm going to show you next, I believe it is, that I want, there is one out there, but it doesn't have the lighted keyboard with it as well. I think it was the Samsung model. It was LTE. My iPad is connected to a cell connection. It's like its own hotspot. And your phone obviously has cell, but I have on my iPad, I paid an extra $100 to be able to connect to a cell, and then I pay $10 or $12 a month on my phone bill to have it connect, and it gets its own number, and it's part of my data plan. And so I can be in a car going down the road, not driving, of course, as a passenger, but I could be in the car and I could be online. I don't have to worry about not having Wi-Fi available to me. To me, that's a criteria. My next model, I would like to have that, but it's not really readily available out there right now. And then also 360 degrees, that means I can bend mine all the way around so the keyboard's on the bottom and I can make a tablet out of it because it's a touch screen. It has this on-screen keyboard, and I can use it like a tablet with it wrapped all the way around. So that's what 360 degrees means. Now, I didn't have on here, and I probably should have, is the USB ports. I prefer at least two. Mine has two. One is a USB 3 and one is a USB 2. Now, how do I know the difference? The USB 3 has a blue plastic thing in it. So if you have a computer and it's got the blue little plastic instead of white, that's a USB 3. It's faster. So if I'm going to plug in something like an external hard drive, I want to plug it into that plug because it's going to be faster reading and writing to the hard drive. And by the way, you can do that with a Chromebook. As well as having the SD card, I could plug an external hard drive into it and have access to it as well. So that's something else to carry around, and I don't like doing that. So, although I do have some portable hard drives. Okay, this is what the screen looks like on a Chromebook. And Uh, before I go any further, are there any questions from the audience? Are you still there?
Okay, yeah, we're still here. I had the microphone muted.
That was fine.
Frank had a question about printers. I think you said you couldn't always use the printer. Could you elaborate about printing?
Yeah, you want to make sure. Probably the best thing to do is if you have a printer you can use wirelessly. You want to make sure that it handles the Google. What did I call it now? The Google printer, and it's the same thing that you use when you have an Android phone. Most all of the printers these days have it, but if you have an older printer, it may not. It may have it, and then you'll have to experiment with it to see if it will work, plugging it in directly. I tried it with my printer, and I didn't make it work yet. My neighbor across the street, who's from New Jersey, by the way, and he's up there right now, he's got a Chromebook, and he has the same model printer that I have, and they can plug it in, and it works fine. So I wasn't doing something right. I'm not concerned about it, and I don't want to screw it up because my printer works from my phone, Robin's phone, which are both Android phones. It works from my iPad, and it also works from my Chromebook, as well as my desktop computer, all wirelessly. So in most cases, you shouldn't have a problem. Once you go through the setup for it, and each printer has some directions on how to make the Google Cloud Print work. But once you make it work, and it works, from then on, you don't have any problem at all.
Hewie.
Yes.
This is Fred Sabin.
Sure,
what
Fred.
About warranties and servicing?
As far as I know, the warranties are 1 year. As I recall, was 1 year. And I have, I know on 2 of my credit cards, my Discover card and my American Express card, they both will extend any warranty up to a year. They'll double whatever warranty there is. And my Chromebook had a 1 year warranty, so I got an extra year. I never had to use it. Best Buy, in most cases, like any laptop, you can take it back into your local dealer, whether it be Best Buy or somebody else, but they all have you ship it back to the manufacturer anyway. But there is a warranty on a new Chromebook, and I believe it's a year.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the audience?
Is there any regular programs that work on the PC, like Quicken or something that you can run on this?
I didn't hear the question. Can you repeat it for me?
Yeah. Can you run something like Quicken on Chromebook?
Quicken is one of those that the answer to that is no. Quicken does not have a cloud-based version yet, or is it QuickBooks? Quicken might, not Quicken may, and it's QuickBooks, I think, that doesn't. But if they have a cloud-based version, yes, you can.
Yeah, I think there is
Yeah, I think it's Quicken they have a cloud-based, but QuickBooks there is not. Because I have a friend that's the only thing that's keeping him from giving up his Windows machine is the fact that he runs QuickBooks.
Yeah, I can understand that. QuickBooks has more of a database.
Yeah. And I'm going to talk about some of the programs that are out there and some of the ones that I use, and so on here in the next. As I'm going to now show you some screenshots of some things from the actual Chromebook. I wanted to give you a background of what to look for, what's in them, and what you're considering here. It is a change in what you do and how you do it, but it's not a big change, and it's an easier change. And once you make that change, the updates take minutes, not hours. They're done in the background. It doesn't affect anything. All it will do is come up and say, when you're ready, you restart the computer when you're ready, your Chromebook when you're ready, and it will have done the update of the system. Any of the program updates, it does it all in the background, and sometimes those programs you have to stop and then start again, but not your whole computer. So this is what the screen looks like. You can have any picture you want. This is the one that came with mine. I kind of like to stay generic when I get a computer, so when I work with people to help them, if they have the same thing, they're looking at it the same way, unless they've changed it. Down at the bottom, you'll notice it's what's called, on the Microsoft machines, that's called a taskbar. On the Google Chromebooks, it's called a shelf. Some people still call it a taskbar. Doesn't matter what you call it. But that's called a shelf. You'll notice on the left there's a little round circle. That's your start button. You've got some icons in the center. And then over on the right, you've got a small area that looks like this, enlarged. And let me go back one. You'll see a little circle number 1. That means I have some kind of a notification. And by the time I grabbed this part, I had looked at the notification. It was gone. There's 3 things on there. There's the time, obviously. In the center is the battery. And the little marking in the middle of the battery means it was charging. If it wasn't charging, it gives me an indicator of about how much storage is left in the battery. And if you click on this, it would actually, and I'll show you in the next slide, or the next couple of slides, what you'll see and how you can determine what the battery life is left before you have to charge it again. And then on the left of the 3 things is your Wi-Fi, and the fact that I'm connected and I have a pretty good connection. If I click that area, I get this box that pops up. And you'll notice at the top, I've got to move something out of the way here. Let's see, can you see my mouse? You can't see my mouse on the screen that I'm, at least I don't see it. No. Anyway, at the top where it says sign out, the next button is your on-off button, and then there's a lock button, and then there's a gear, which is your settings. When you click that, you get your settings. You'll notice then below that is Frontier. That's my Wi-Fi, and I have a medium connection. I was out in the living room, and the router and Wi-Fi box is in the bedroom, so it's medium and not high. I have my Bluetooth off to save the battery. I don't use the Bluetooth that much. I have the notification off for 2 apps. You can have it off for all of them or on. There's a night light which changes the just the way the screen looks, and even if I changed it on here, you wouldn't see it. It would only be on my screen. And then accessibility, and there's several things in accessibility that are interesting, but I'm probably not going to get into that today. I don't think I've got a slide with that anymore. The next thing with the line is the volume control. Right now I have the speaker. You can see there's an X there, so the speaker is turned off. And then the next one, the bottom line there, is the brightness, and I have it set at about 3/4. And at the bottom it's got the date, which I did the screen capture this past Sunday, and the battery was full. If it wasn't full, it would say that there's it's 78% and there's 5 hours or 6 hours and 27 minutes left. And if it's charging and it's not full, it will tell me how many minutes to until it's charged. Okay. Now, when I click the start button, I get the menu. At the very top, you'll see first there's a place where you can type in any device or app or something, so it'll search your computer. And then right under it are 5 items. Right now on this screen capture was camera, settings, files, Chrome, and mail washer. Those were the last 5 programs or apps that I ran. And so that's like a quick access to repeat. So if you're repeating the same ones over and over again, you can get back to them very easily. And then you'll notice on the far right, there's 4 dots. The top one is white, and the others are little circles over on the right. Let's see if I can't, my mouse just won't show up. No, it just doesn't show up on my Chromebook, so I don't know if you see it on your screen or not, but there's 4 dots over there. That means I have 4 pages of apps on my system. When you get it, there's only going to be one, and it's only going to have some things in it. But let's look at what you got on here. You got Chrome, which is the browser, which is the basis of your operating system. Most things will run from it. Then you have the Play Store and the Web Store. Remember I said the Play Store is for your Android apps. Your Web Store is for your Chromebook apps. Some of them are the same. Some you get a lot more availability in the Play Store, but not all of the Chromebooks have the Play Store ability. There's Play Games, YouTube. I believe I think the Play Games and the YouTube were on it when I got it. There's Get Help, so there's a lot of online help just by clicking that. Then Google Maps, Google Docs, Google Drive. If you've got some movies downloaded, you can play them. Sheets is the Google spreadsheet. And then you can play music. Then you got the slides, which is the equivalent of PowerPoint for Google. Then there's Play Books. And then the Google Photos. And I have Google Photos set up from my phone that when I take a picture with my phone, it automatically goes to Google Photos. When I'm connected to Wi-Fi, it uploads them, and then I can watch them on my, take a look at any of them on my Chromebook once they're up there, and I can look at all of my Google Photos. They're saved out on the cloud, so if my computer dies, my phone dies, they both die, my photos are still safe. They're up in the Google Cloud. Then there's Gmail, the Google Calendar, a calculator, a text program that I have because I like to use Notepad a lot, so I've installed an app for text. Then your files was a file manager, and I've got a few screen captures of that. And let's go to the next page. I've got just photos, and in the photos, by the way, you can crop, you can lighten a few, you can do some minor adjustments to your photos. You can turn them if they're if they're on the side and you want them landscape, you can do that using the photos. Actually, you can use it using Google Photos. There are some, there's actually a Photoshop, a very light version that you can get for your Android to do some other photo editing. I do all my photo editing on my Windows machine, so I don't do much at all on my Chromebook. But I could if I wanted to. Plus, there's some websites out there that what you do is you upload your photo to it, and then you can do all the editing you want there, and then download the edited file. Some people don't like doing that because they're sharing their photo, and they don't know what's being done with it from there. So there's some security issues. I don't have a problem with it, but some people do. Now, I have an Amazon Echo, so I have the app for it, so I can tell it things I want it to do from my Chromebook. I can look at my shopping list and so on that I enter using my Echo, and then take a look at it on my Chromebook. Stitcher is a program that I use to listen to radio stations all over the country and podcasts. The TV, the ZTV, is a TV guide. I know back in February, your group did a presentation of mine on cutting the cord. Well, I've cut the cord. So not everything that I watch now has a guide to it. So I can look up and see what's actually being played on different stations. So if that station's on one of the services that I'm getting, I can see what's online. And then there's Google Drive. VLC is a way to watch videos. I have it on my desktop. You probably are familiar with that. Google Keep is like my Evernote. but I don't use Google Keep. I use Evernote. Titan TV is another TV guide program. OneDrive is my Microsoft cloud storage. I can get to anything on my Microsoft cloud storage OneDrive using my Chromebook. And then, of course, Zoom, which is what we're using now. I have two different. One is the one that I use to actually present from, and the other one is just to join a Zoom presentation. Instagram I don't use, but I have on there. Keep My Note is another text. Magic Jack. Some of you may be familiar with the Magic Jack. For years, they were on the infomercials real heavy, but I don't see them much anymore. But I have a Magic Jack. I have a Magic Jack account. So I literally can use Magic Jack as a telephone using my Chromebook. So my Chromebook is an 11-inch telephone, if I want it to be. It has its own phone number, and it's tied to my account. So it's the same as my Magic Jack phone, which I have at home, but I can travel with. I can call you using my Chromebook anywhere I've got Wi-Fi, and I can have you call me using that number as well. Not the best way to make phone calls with an 11-inch tablet or 11-inch Chromebook, but why not when you're in a pinch and you need it? Fox Nation is a subscription program. Pluto TV is free TV. CME TV is network TV that I pay for, so I can watch ABC, NBC, CBS. And then let's go to the next page. Random UX is a randomizer. Sometimes I'm in a meeting and they want to do a drawing and they have a list of people with a bunch of numbers. I can get a random drawing using it. It's just a little app that I installed. Inbox is an email program. The settings, of course, are settings. My PowerPoint, I actually can run the PowerPoint program on my Chromebook as well as doing the one in the cloud. But so I have it online so when I do a presentation using my Chromebook, I don't have to use Sheets, because Sheets, some of the if I design it in PowerPoint, some of the sheets don't look right. Most of them do, but some of the fonts aren't available and so on. ROK Radio is old-time radio that I like to listen to. Draw is a drawing program that's from Google. Flip is a program that has all of the advertisements from the newspapers, from stores like Walmart and your supermarket in your area, Ollie's if you have an Ollie's, any of the Big Lots. I don't know what stores are in your area, but Flip will gear it towards your area by you putting in your zip code. And I like to take a look at, so I don't subscribe to the Sunday newspaper anymore. I look at all the ads online. Camera, the one thing about a camera with the Chromebook, it's only facing you. It doesn't face out. And I wish, and I think some of the Pixels and maybe the Samsungs have two cameras now, one on either side. Feng is a program I have with some hardware here at the house, the text editor. Evernote, I've mentioned to you that I use to store articles. Mailwasher is a way I listen. I look at 35 different email addresses. I use Mailwasher to look at all of them at once. EV Residence is a program that is actually a PDF address book that I use for my neighborhood. Obviously, Firefox is another browser, and then Messages that I have tied to my phone so I can actually look at messages. The system is something that you can look at, and you were asking how can you tell how much information or what the your Chromebook system is made up of, and that'll tell you how much memory it has, how much storage it has, and a lot of other information about it. Feedly is a program I use to look at different information that's out on the web. iHeartRadio is another place where I listen to radio programs and podcasts. Here's another version of Evernote. Ewell is my password manager. My local newspapers. Sling is I can watch my. Sling is what we use to watch most of our TV programs with. They have an Android version, so I can watch almost any TV program that I watch at home anywhere as I want on my Chromebook. And then there's the Chrome Canvas, which is a paint program. So that's what I've got installed on mine. Now, Google Docs comes with it. Google Docs is like Word. And you set up your blank document. It's got all of the menus and things that you can do with a Word document. And it's free. But just in the last year or so, Microsoft has now made Microsoft Office products a cloud-based program free that you can use as an Android program, or actually it's not even an Android program. You use it from your browser and then go to Microsoft. And this is what it looks like. If you click on office.com, and you don't have to pay for this. This is free. If you have a subscription to their service, the Office 365, you sign in using that account, and you'll get a few more things that you can do. But you can run any of these programs, your Outlook, you can use OneDrive, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, all free from your browser. You can even do that on your computer at home, your desktop computer, your Windows computer. By going to office.com, you do have to set up a Microsoft account for free and sign in with it. And generally, if you have a live.com address, a hotmail.com address, or an outlook.com address, those are all Microsoft accounts. You can use any of them. If you have to create a new account, generally it's going to be an outlook.com address. You sign in with it using the password for that account, and then you can see what files are out there, and you can actually, if you're working on a Word document, you save it, and it saves it out in your on your OneDrive, and so you can access it from your desktop when you get home. So let's look at what Word looks like. Obviously, if any of you use Word, this is what the online version looks like. You can upload a document, you can open a document, you can create a new one. And then what you do, if you're familiar with Word, this is what I've got a Word document. I set it up with I did a copy and paste of a photo, put it in, told it to wrap around it, and I've got a nice little article there that I did in Word by copying and pasting some text and a picture. And you'll notice the top of the document has got all of the things that you use when you edit a Word document. They're all there. And then when I went back in, I went ahead and I captured. The first one is, the top one is Home. The second one is Insert. You'll see they're underlined. And then Layout is the next one. So you can see all of the different choices of things that you can do to your documents. Then here's your references, your review, your view, and then there's also help. And you'll see at the top, all of them, they say save to OneDrive, and it automatically saves it to your OneDrive as you're working or when you tell it to save. If you want to do Excel, here's what Excel looks like in the cloud. Same as if you have Excel on your desktop. Here's PowerPoint. Same as any of you have ever used PowerPoint. The same, and it's free. Remember paying hundreds of dollars to get a Microsoft or trying to get a free copy at a user group meeting or a user group conference? Now you're going to have it. Microsoft gives it away free online. Of course, they want you to get the subscription and get more things to be able to do with it, but you should have enough there for most people and most seniors to be able to do what you need to do. This is the Google Play. When you're looking to add an app to your computer, this is where you go, an Android app, and you can search. You can do a drop down. You can say My Apps. You can see movies and music and books, or movies and TV, music, books, newsstand, and then and you can do a search on anything and find what apps are out there. Now, I mentioned earlier, you can when you look at what your apps are, it gives you a list of all what the apps are, and when it was last updated, and if there's an update that needs to be done where it says no updates available, if there are a couple that need to be, they'll be there. But generally, you have it's set automatically to do the updates in the background. So if there are some there, you can tell it, okay, do them now, or you just close this, and when it sees it has some time to be able to do it, it'll update those files, and it does it all in the background. You won't notice it, and you won't realize it. And again, you have all of these programs, and you can either open them, or you can actually, from this, you can click on it and tell it to uninstall it as well. The help for Google Chromebooks is right online. You just do the search, the Google Help, and you've got all the things that you can look for. You can search by word and find it all online. You're online anyway, and it's fast, so you should be able to find what you're looking for. I mentioned to you what the file manager looks like. Well, here is mine. You'll notice my drive here. It's got my drive. It's got the download. So if I download anything, it has some storage built, left over of my 8 gigabytes or 16 gigabytes, but not a whole bunch of it. But let's see if I got another screen here. I guess I don't have one. I didn't do a screen capture with the SD card in it. But if we switch over, if we have time, and we switch over to my Chromebook, I can show you that if you need to look at it. But that will be one of the items on the left, and when I click on it, I can look at any of the files on the SD card. It's only been the last couple of versions of the Chrome OS where I could actually run a PowerPoint from the SD card or open up a document from the SD card. That wasn't a possibility in some of the earlier versions of the operating system and in some of the earlier Chromebooks. Okay, as I mentioned, Chromebooks for Seniors is the website. This is what it looks like. There's blogs. There's almost 450 different articles on how to use a Chromebook. And I'll open it up to some questions, and if we need to, I can switch over to my Chromebook and we can look at something if we need to. So let me go ahead and start my video up so you can see me. And Clark, any questions there? I threw a lot at you guys.
Yeah, you did. It was all good. Just trying to look at some. Any questions, guys?
Hewie,
Yes.
Fred Sabin again.
Yes,
I've
Fred.
seen some news articles lately that some of the older Chromebooks, the operating system is expiring and no longer being updated. And it said when you buy a Chromebook, you should check in the settings to find out how long that system is going to be good for.
Yeah, and what I would do is that zipso. I believe it was .com or .net that I talked about earlier. You might want to go there and see if it's an older model, what year the model was, and do some research on it. And that's why you have to be careful if you buy one of the really cheap ones, because most likely they're one of the older ones. They may be brand new, but they may still be one of the several years old model. And so you need to be very careful there because they are, you want to be able to update them on a regular basis.
Will you continue to be able to use it as is? Or
I believe so. But remember that a lot of the updates have to do with security. And if you're not updating, because you're online for everything, you could be in danger, but for the most part, they can't do a whole bunch anyway. The way the memory works and the way Chromebooks work is every tab on your Chrome browser is like a separate computer. So if something happens in one of them, it won't affect the other. And it's just very interesting the way the memory works. And I haven't been able to find a lot of articles that explain that. But Ron Brown, who is also an APCUG presenter, in his presentation to one of the APCUG tech conferences, he talked a little bit about how all that worked. If you're interested in that, that would be one of the presentations to go back and see where he explains about that. That's a very good point, and a reason to be careful. You're better off paying $250 for one of the more recent or a recent model than you would be to buy a $150 older one. First of all, you're probably not. It's not going to be touch, and second of all, it's probably not going to be able to run the Android programs, the apps.
Thank you.
Did I spark any interest in using a Chromebook in the people who were there, Clark?
I think so. They're all busy typing away here.
Well, it can't play most of my online games. So.
Well, did he say it can't play?
Yeah, it cannot play his online games.
That may be a function of the security set up in that room.
Well, no, I'm thinking about things like Star Wars Galaxies, EverQuest.
Okay, I'm not familiar with those, but yeah, I would if they're more graphic intensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, those will not run on this. That's correct. So you get an old computer that has all that, a dedicated one for the games, and then use this to do important stuff.
That is the
Other important stuff.
That is his important stuff.
Yeah, I understand exactly what he means by that.
Frank, anything?
Any questions about how you do things or what you do? Make sure you take a look at my website. There's all kinds of articles on how to do things. How many of the people that are there, how many have Android phones? Any of them?
One. Just one.
Just one out of four. The others have iPhones then or old flip phones.
Yeah, I have
and tablets.
If you have an Android phone, running a Chromebook is very easy. And running any apps, if it runs on your phone, it'll pretty much run on a Chromebook. I have found one or two occasionally it will say it won't run on your device, and then sometimes it wants to run in that small phone size, but most of them you can make larger and without any problems. As you can tell from the programs I run on it, I do everything on it.
Yeah.
The only thing I do a lot of this kind of thing, and I do a lot of video editing. But there are programs to do that, and I've run some. There's a couple of programs, a couple of websites where I've actually done tutorials, where I've done screen captures and created some of the tutorials you'll see on my website that were actually done on the Chromebook. And there's websites out there that you can do a lot of things online, whether it be editing a drawing, doing video work. Even YouTube has an editor. Well, if there's nothing else, Clark.
Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm going to end the recording.